It was quite the Conference Frenzy weekend. I'm not going to lie. Quite the weekend for Pigskin Frenzy. Quite the weekend in Conference Championship weekend and Conference Frenzy. It was a doozy. Let me go on and tell you something. 2-4 in my picks. I went 2-4. Got to do better. That's what I keep telling myself. I got to do better. And I told myself that, especially after the games were played. I only got one Power 4 championship right. Only one. And we're going to recap all the games. 2 Group of 5, 4 Power 4. We're going to recap all the 6 games and talk about our playoff reactions here for a little bit. And we're going to go over what the difference between that and my final Frenzy playoff rankings. Guys, loaded show. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful, and I mean beautiful and very chilly Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at pigskin_frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. The website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we are at 6,200 listeners, about to be at 6,300 listeners. We are so thankful for you tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. We couldn't do this without you guys, but most importantly, we could not do this show without our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We give him all the glory. We give him all the praise. Guys, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. If you want to come to know him, contact me at X and Instagram, at pigskin_frenzy, as well as the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com, on the contact info below. It's the best decision you can ever make in your life, hands down. We give him all the glory, because without him, we would not be doing Pigskin Frenzy. We wouldn't be in college football media, and we're so thankful for our Lord and Savior, Jesus. So, guys, keep on plugging into Pigskin Frenzy, and we give him all the glory and credit for it. Guys, what a weekend. Let me want to tell you something. What a weekend of college football. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to kick it off with our Conference Frenzy recap, and we're going to start it off on the Friday games. We're going to go with a Group of 5. A lot of people are kind of skeptical about the Group of 5 and about the G5. Well, G5, Joel, is not one of them. And we're going to discuss that when we discuss our playoff rank reactions and everything after our Frenzy, after our Frenzy rankings and after, we recap Conference Frenzy weekend. So let's kick it off. Friday, the Sun Belt Championship. I picked James Madison to win this game. I thought James Madison was going to cover the spread, and they were going to walk away with this one. But I was wrong. I was right about the outcome, was wrong about the overall thing. James Madison covered Troy covered 17 points. James Madison 31, Troy 14 was the final score of this one, and Troy covered. Troy actually gave them a really good first half of football. I wouldn't even say first half. I said they gave them a really good, probably middle of the fourth quarter up until like about middle of the fourth. Going on later into the end of the game, close to the end of the game. James Madison then ran away with it at the very end, but Troy was fighting in this ball game, and a lot of people didn't realize that, but they were really fighting in this game. Let's talk about James Madison, though. James Madison, Alonzo Barnett III, 93 yards, 10 for 25, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The play, and Barnett also had 85 yards, 12 carries, and a rushing touchdown, but the play from Wayne Knight was the truth. The running back Wayne Knight, 21 carries, 212 yards, 10 yards on average, 10.1 yards per rush on average with a touchdown. And then, obviously, Wisłowski had 31 yards, 2 receptions, and a touchdown. James Madison, the positive circle moments. Positive and negative circle moments. As I'm doing my pen here. Positive and negative circle moments, man. 411 total yards compared to their 177 yards. 318 yards on the ground compared to Troy's negative 26. Huge. You're going to win a lot. You're probably going to win the ball game doing that. And then 6.1 yards per play compared to their 2.6 yards per play. I would say, I think the first downs, only by 7 first downs, that was a positive circle moment. I will say the fourth down efficiency was good. I will say the yards per play was good. The total yards was good. And I will say the rushing yards was good. Those are some positive circle moments. The things that I did not like from James Madison, and as they enter the playoff, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, what I'm worried about with James Madison, especially when they, in their first round game, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Not really talk about it. We're not picking it until next Thursday, but We are going to discuss some of it. They had 2 turnovers, 7 penalties for 80 yards, and they were 2 for 14 on third down. I think those are the negative circle moments that could cost you games. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but cost you games as in cost you a game like if you played Bama, if you played Georgia, if you played probably even Tulane, if you play another another group of 5 team. I think this was James Madison's night. I think this was James Madison's year. This was James Madison's Sun Belt run. And I think that the whole Sun Belt Conference was James Madison this year. I really do. I think Old Dominion played really good. Don't get me wrong. But I think the Sun Belt was going to belong to James Madison at the end of the day. But these things are costly, especially when it comes to playoffs. So we're going to see what happens come playoff time with James Madison. But 93 passing yards as well. They didn't really throw the ball a whole lot. They ran the ball well, and you can do that. But what's going to happen if they slow the run down? If you play a defense that is capable of slowing the run down? I think that's a big key there. Bob Chesney is we were worried about him and seeing if he was, he's going to UCLA. So we were wondering if the whole distraction, how they played was a factor into that. Was, okay, the mentality is, okay, I'm really thinking about UCLA right now too, not just thinking about this. But no, they won, and he was thinking about James Madison. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that stuff like that tends to happen. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. I think stuff like that tends to happen. You get another job, and then you're going to coach them in your final conference championship or whatever, and then you tend to think, oh, is this guy really, here? Or is he coaching? A lot of people think that way. I don't think that way about Bob Chesney. I think he's a really good football coach. He brought him to the playoff. He brought him to the dance. He will coach this team in the playoff. So congratulations to James Madison. I mean, it's awesome to see them in as a G5 representative. And it is awesome to see them get in. And not only just 1, but 2 G5 representatives in the playoff this year, which is huge. And we're going to discuss all that here in a little bit. But James Madison, their next game is coming up on December 20th, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Let's talk about Troy. I'm going to go over these games at a good rate. I'm not going to say, okay, I'm not going to speed past them, but I'm going to go out these games at a good rate because we do have other things to discuss as well. Troy in this game could not stop the run, obviously. So I'm going to get to some positives. I'm going to get to some negatives. The positive circle moments where they competed, and they competed all the way until about the mid to late fourth quarter, but closer to the end of the game. That's when James Madison started to run away with it. I think they got turnovers, like 2 turnovers in this ball game. And I think the defense played really, really well, besides the rushing defense, obviously. 4 penalties for 45 yards. That's a positives. And I think they won the third down battle, even though the third down battle they didn't really do good on third downs either. But I think they played with some toughness in this game as well. Here are the negatives. Real quick, 203 passing yards. That's huge, very huge for this team, obviously. 177 total yards technically. So, yeah, 177 total yards technically, but 203 passing yards overall. The rushing was rough. The rushing was negative 26 rushing yards. That's not good, obviously. You're in the negatives. In temperature, weather-wise, you would be freezing your behind off, right? As we say in the South, you'd be freezing. I'm cold right now. That's why I have this cardigan on. I'm freezing right now. So, But the point is, that's not good, all right? So you're 4 for 18 on third down, 10 punts, 8 sacks allowed, and then the turnovers at the end. Here's the one thing that got to me. They did not capitalize off their turnovers, or they barely did. They got a field goal out of it maybe, but they barely capitalized off of their turnovers, really. So, and I think once James Madison gave them opportunities to strike, they didn't strike. So I think that's a big, big negative circle moment there, especially against a team like James Madison who's trying to contend for a playoff. You can spoil their season in the Sun Belt at their place by trying to capitalize off these turnovers, and they did not. And James Madison got away with them. So I think those are the negatives for Troy. James Madison's a Sun Belt champion. Coming up next for Troy, they have a bowl game. I believe they have a bowl game. They're 7-4. I believe. 7-4, December 16th on a Tuesday, the Salute to Veterans Bowl. They play Jacksonville State. So we're going to see what happens in that bowl game. We're going to pick bowl games on next Tuesday's episode as well. So coming out next Tuesday, it's Bowl Mania, and we're going to have Savannah Tujay on to talk bowl games with her and preview and predict bowl games with her as well. And we will have a guest picker for next Thursday's CFP first round guest picker as well. You're going to love that, and it's going to be awesome. So mini promotion there. We're going to get down to the scheduling aspect of everything at the end of this episode. But final score of this game was 31-14. James Madison's on its way to the college football playoff. Troy is on its way to the Veterans Bowl. James Madison is the Sun Belt champions. Let's go to the American Conference Championship, because this one was a doozy, and I picked North Texas to win this game. I really did. I picked North Texas to win, and I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I really probably should have thought about who was coaching on the sideline for Tulane, and it was John Summerall. John Summerall is a winner everywhere he goes. They got this win, and they deserve this win. 34-21 was the final score of this game. 34 Tulane, 21 North Texas. Tulane was on fire in this game, offensively and defensively. And I think North Texas had some trouble. They really did. I think they had some trouble, especially with turnovers. And I think we're going to get to that here in a little bit. Here are the positive circle moments for Tulane. How about Jake Retzlaff? 13 for 22, 145 yards. I'm going to tell you what, though. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns, 49 rushing yards, and 15 carries. But I'm going to say this, Jamari McClure, 121 yards, 22 carries, and 1 touchdown. He was a big centerpiece of the rushing attack for Tulane as well in this one. The rushing was good for Tulane, and they moved the ball well on North Texas's defense, because North Texas's defense statistically is not a very good rushing defense. Yes, they're not. I think they're ranked in the hundreds, I believe. Now in college football, they're 199 rushing yards compared to their 121 rushing yards. So they did very good that way. And here's the thing: on a lot of these stats, North Texas beat Tulane in a lot of these stats. They did. But Tulane was physical, they were tough, and the turnovers were just too much to overcome. The defense was stifling, and Tulane found a way to capitalize off those turnovers and found a way to win. So it was good for them. I was honestly, I thought North Texas did, on paper at least, did well on offense. However, I thought they were going to do a little bit more starting out, and I think starting out how they played starting out was just too much for them to overcome. They had a good first drive, but I think it was just too much for them to overcome. 5-14 on third down. They were 100% on fourth down. They didn't allow any sacks. They played clean football. They won the time of possession battle, 35 minutes compared to North Texas's 24 minutes, 52 seconds. And they were just physical. 199 rushing yards, and they had 4.6 yards per play. Tulane is going to the college football playoff as the second G5 representative in the first round. So John Summerall is going to have to wait a little bit before going to Florida. He is coaching his team in the playoffs. And, man, I've always expected John Summerall to do what he said he was going to do, and that was go. He said we're going to go to the college football playoff with Tulane, and guess what? He's going to the college football playoff with Tulane. He's a winner everywhere he goes. Florida's got a good one, and I'm pretty sure Florida now, looking back on it, is very excited about the prospect of having him now because he's a playoff coach. So you got him, and it's very interesting. Tulane, it is going to be very interesting to see how they do in their first round game, but we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. And we're going to see what happens with Tulane. They played really good football on Friday night. They are the American Conference champions. I said back in the conference standing projections for G5 representatives, right? I had James Madison on there. I had South Florida on there. The number one team I had on there was Tulane because I thought Tulane could do something. Now, as time went on, I was starting to doubt a little bit, but shame on me for doubting John Summerall and shame on me for doubting Tulane. I'm a John Summerall guy, too, so I like me some John Summerall. I'm proud for him, and I'm proud for this team. They did really good on Friday night. So final score of this game was 34-21, sorry. Tulane is going to the college football playoff. North Texas with Eric Morris had a heck of a season, though. They really did. They have a heck of a season. It just came up a little bit short in the American Conference Championship. Now Eric Morris is he is now officially now at Oklahoma State as their next head coach in Stillwater. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does there. The question could be asked about this, though. Was he focused on the game, all this stuff? Because he accepted another job? I think a lot of people are going to ask that if they start losing. I think a lot of people on X and social media are going to say, oh, man, is he okay? Is he thinking about this, or is he thinking about it elsewhere? Is he thinking about Tulane? Is he thinking about Florida? Is he thinking about Oklahoma State? It's like a lot of people are going to think that. Maybe, here's the deal, just maybe, you got beat by a better team. Maybe that's the case. And Tulane was a better team on Friday night. North Texas, 415 total yards compared to their 344 yards. 294 passing yards compared to their 145 passing yards. 121 rushing yards was the battle that they lost. 6.1 yards per play. They had 25 first downs. Those are some positive circle moments. Another positive to me was Drew Mestemaker. 2 touchdowns, 294 yards, 21 for 34. He played okay. Gray had a 1 rushing touchdown, 47 yards, 8 carries. Hawkins didn't really do a whole lot. Miles Coleman, 125 yards, 7 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Williams III had 1 touchdown, 52 yards, and 4 receptions. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Mestemaker was the positive circle moment. He was also the negative circle moment, and I will tell you why he was the negative circle moment. I love Drew Mestemaker. He's a good football player, and he's going to be a football player wherever. If he stays at North Texas or goes anywhere else, he is going to be a really good quarterback for that team. I'm not saying that. And it's not really Drew Mestemaker's the negative circle moment. It was the turnovers that was the negative circle moment, because I think that cost them the football game. So we're kicking it off with the negative circle moments for North Texas. 7 penalties for 65 yards and 5 turnovers. They had 5 turnovers this game when Tulane had none, and they only had 5 penalties, 48 yards. Yes, but the penalties cost them. 5 turnovers and 5 sacks allowed. I don't think you're going to win a ball game that way. And I think that was the negative circle moments were too much to overcome. They tried to do a late comeback, but they couldn't. And I think it was just too much to overcome at the end, especially the game-sealing interception at the very end, at the end zone. So North Texas had a great run. They really, really did. I'm curious to see how they finish out. I'm curious to see what Mestemaker does next. I'm curious to see how Eric Morris is going to do at Oklahoma State. But tough. It was very tough for North Texas to win this ball game off those turnovers. I think that was the key thing for this team in this game. Well, coming up for them, they have the New Mexico Bowl on December 27th at 5:45 Eastern, 4:45 Central. They play San Diego State in the New Mexico Bowl. So we're going to see how they do in that one. Final score was 34-21. Tulane are the American Conference champions. They're heading to the college football playoff. North Texas is heading to the New Mexico Bowl against San Diego State. Those are the G5 games. Let's move on to the Power 4 games, the 4 games on Saturday. We're going to kick it off with the Big 12 championship. The only game I got right. We're going to discuss it right now. The Big 12 championship. BYU and Texas Tech. I said that Texas Tech was going to win this ball game. I thought it was going to be sort of the same sentiment that we saw on November 8th when we focused on this game last time. Well, I was right about the outcome. I was right about it all. Final score was 34-7 Texas Tech. It was a rolling. They handled business in Dallas for the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech's first ever Big 12 title. So congratulations to Joey McGuire. Congratulations to the Red Raiders. Joey McGuire got his money. He spent his money, right? And it was worth spending. The money was well worth it. You're getting a Big 12 title out of it, and you're getting a college football playoff appearance out of it, because they're one of the buys in the college football playoff. So they're getting a buy out of it as well. So the money was well spent for Texas Tech. Let's talk about the positive circle moments and the negative circle moments. Positives for for Texas Tech. Cameron Dickey, 72 yards, 18 carries, 1 touchdown. Williams had 80 yards, 15 carries. Baron Morton, 20 for 33, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense was all over the place. Coy Eakin, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions. Virgil had 86 yards, 8 receptions. The defense was stifling in this game, and I think that was the big positive circle moment for this team. They snagged 4 turnovers in this game, and especially Ben Roberts. I think Ben Roberts was a positive circle moment as well. He was all over the field for this team, and they played really hard and tough and physical up front, and I think that's really where the positive circle moments are, especially for that defense. I think this defense is scary and it's dangerous, and I think the college ball playoff need to whoever wins in the playoff, whoever wins. And we're going to get to the bracket here in a little bit, needs to pay attention to Texas Tech because that's a really good football team, a very dangerous football team in the college football playoff. Some more positive circle moments, 374 total yards compared to their 200 yards, 215 passing compared to their 137, 159 rushing compared to their 63, 5.1 yards per play compared to their 3.4 yards per play. They were 18 for 19 on third down. They had 19 first downs, and they only allowed 2 sacks, yes, but they played clean football on top of it with no turnovers and 31 minutes and 54 seconds of time of possession compared to their 28 minutes and 6 seconds. It was honestly all over the field, and not just on the field, on paper, it was Texas Tech's game. They beat them twice and handled them twice. It was their game, and it was their season to win the Big 12 championship. The money was there. The confidence was there. The coaching was there. Joe McGuire did a heck of a job coaching this team this season, and they've honestly kind of handled business against everybody, probably besides Arizona State, where they got upset. That's it. I mean, they've handled everybody. You line up the schedule. I mean, and we can go over their schedule. I mean, we can kick it off with the first game of their schedule. They played Kent State they played Arkansas Pine Bluff on August 30th. 67-7. Kent State on the September 6th, 62-14. Oregon State on the 13th of September, 45-14. Utah, 34-10. They played Houston, 35-11. Kansas, they played them, 42-17. The upset was the only thing, 26-22. That was the only blemish there. 42-0. 43 against Oklahoma State. Against Kansas State, 43-20. BYU, 29-7. UCF, 48-9. West Virginia, 49-0. Texas Tech, BYU again in the Big 12 title, 34-7. Now they're bye and they await the college football playoff quarterfinal in the Orange Bowl. They've dominated everybody this year. Texas Tech is a dangerous team, and keep an eye on them in the college football playoff. They're scary on both sides of the ball. So the scary thing about this was they did all that against BYU, and that wasn't really their best game. That's scary to me because I didn't think they played their best. Now, I think they played astonishing on defense. I think offensively they kept stalling out. Probably, I don't know if it was because they were trying to control the clock or what, but I think BYU's defense hung in there as long as they could. So I'm going to give BYU's defense a little bit of credit. But I'm going to tell you what, man, if that's not their best, 34-7, that's a scary thought. So let's just pay attention to Texas Tech in this field and watch out for them. Final score was 34-7. They're on their way to the quarterfinal Orange Bowl in the college football playoff. Cannot wait to see who they play in that one. Let's go to BYU really quick, and we're going to talk about the positives. The positives were their defense. They played physical on defense and hung in there as well as they could. Their first quarter was a positive circle moment. They started off really good and caught a lead. And then Texas Tech was like, all right, we're going to wake up a little bit, and they woke up a little bit. But they played pretty physical in that first quarter. The rest of the game was just Texas Tech, but they played physical in the first quarter at least. So I'm going to give them that. And on defense, though, there were some drives where they played very tough. They stalled Texas Tech out and held them to field goals on drives. Field goals that Texas Tech missed. So, yeah, I mean, BYU played really physical on defense. Now, they just didn't really have the offense to back it up. And plus, I couldn't stop turning the ball over. So, Bear Bachmeier in this game, he had 115 yards, 16 for 27. He also he tried to run a little bit, but his ankle was a little bit banged up. L.J. Martin, 76 yards, 19 carries, 1 rushing touchdown. I think there's the positives were 6 for 14 on third down. They only allow 2 sacks, and the penalties, they minimized the penalties with like 4 penalties for 30 yards. Those are some positives. But I'm going to tell you what, 3.4 yards per play, 63 yards, 137 passing yards. They only had 200 total yards. Not going to be enough against Texas Tech. And not only that, they didn't turn the ball over at all, and you turned the ball over 4 times. So 4 times, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and it all goes to Texas Tech. So, yeah, that's not going to work out for you. and I hate saying that, but it's not. It wasn't close, and you made them kind of you kind of made them. Excuse me. You kind of made them not right. Not make you kind of put them in a position to where they can run away with it, right? So there's really nothing else to say. I mean, a lot of people are going to look at me and think, Joel, should they be in the playoff? Spoiler alert, I had them out, and we can discuss that here in a little bit, but I just think there was really nothing to say on this. So we can talk about their playoff, but other than that, I think BYU showed that, yeah, they may not be in after this. So, but they're in a bowl game. They're in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which I'm so excited about. Focusing on the Pop-Tarts Bowl, it's not even funny. I cannot wait for that game. They play Georgia Tech in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and it's going to be a very fun game. Georgia Tech versus BYU in Orlando, Florida, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on December 27th in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I cannot wait for that game. I'm so excited, and we're going to talk about it. Final score was 34-7. They're getting ready for Georgia Tech, which is going to be a really good game. Cannot wait to preview and predict that one on next Monday. 34-7 was the final score. Texas Tech on its way to the college football playoff as Big 12 champs. BYU on its way to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and the Pop-Tarts Bowl is amazing. Cannot wait for it. It's one of my favorite bowls. It really is. If it goes away, I'm going to be sad. All right? I'm going to be very sad. Very sad. Texas Tech wins, and they're on their way to the college football playoff. Let's talk about this shocker, though, because to me, it's all chaos, and I think it was the reason behind the college football playoff debate. Duke and Virginia. I picked Virginia to win this game, and I got it wrong. The 5-loss Duke Blue Devils come in and beat Virginia 27-20 in overtime. It was a phenomenal game. Virginia stuck around until the very end. They brought it to overtime. Duke went all the way down the field, scored. Chandler Morris, first play off of a trick play, and then it was a pick, and Duke won the ACC Championship. Chaos. If you describe the ACC season as a conference, it was chaos. Because the ACC champion is not even in the college football playoff. That's what's so mind-boggling. Right? That's what's so mind-boggling about this. Because they changed the seeding format, and it's straight seeding and not really conference champion-based, right? Even though conference champions do matter still, it's not really the sole focus. It's more of a straight seeding model. The 5-loss Duke Blue Devils are the ACC champions. They won their first ever ACC title in football program history. That is crazy. Darian Mensah, I said with Jake Crane, shout out to Jake Crane on this. I said that Mensah was, I don't know if he's really worth that much money. With $4 million was the NIL money or an NIL value that he had. Well, he made me eat my words. He brought them to an ACC championship, and they won the ACC title. Manny Diaz, incredible coaching as well. 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 for 25. Nate Shepard had a game, 97 yards, 1 touchdown, 21 carries. Castle, 35 yards, 16 carries. The Duke Blue Devils defense played really well also. I'm going to sit here and say this, because they played physical. Positive circle moments for me, the rushing yards, 137 rushing yards. They had 333 total yards, 4.8 yards per play, 6 for 16 on third down. I will say the positive circle moment for Duke was the time of possession. They used 10 minutes in the first quarter to score. So they wasted half the first quarter going down the field. They controlled the clock in this game to a huge degree. They beat them by 9 minutes in this game, but going into half, it was it was a lot. But they were in time of possession. Duke was up a lot in time of possession, and it was only a one-score game. But Duke really managed the clock well in this, and they ran clock, and they minimized opportunities for Virginia to do anything. And Virginia had to be in such a hurry to do stuff. So I think Duke played that game very well. And Virginia had a really good time of possession game against Duke when they first played. And in the rematch, Duke just turned it right back around on them. So I thought that was very cool. Very cool to see from Manny Diaz and the Blue Devils. The negatives are the 8 penalties for 72 yards. Obviously, it didn't really matter because they won and they're ACC champions. It is crazy to think that Duke, a 8-5 team, or ACC champions when we all predicted Clemson to win. Then we turned our focus to Miami, and they didn't get in. We turned our focus to Georgia Tech, and I thought Georgia Tech was going to get in, and Georgia Tech was going to be an ACC champion representative. They're in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which is a great honor to be in. I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Probably more than a lot of people. But they lost to Pitt. So then who's next? Then SMU was going to be in, and then they lost, and you're thinking, oh, shoot. A great resume. They've lost the 5 teams, but really the 5 teams, were Illinois, Tulane, Georgia Tech, UConn, and Virginia. Let me see. They only lost 2 ACC games, Virginia and Georgia Tech, and then they got in as a 2-loss conference team. Conference-wise, they're a 2-loss team, and that's how they got in. And then they shocked the system and win it as an overall 5-loss team. Crazy. The ACC was chaos this year. Very chaotic. We didn't know who was going to get in, but Duke got in and won. If Virginia would have gotten in and won, if Virginia would have won, Virginia would have been in the playoff. But Duke wins, and Virginia gets out, leaving only one ACC team that is in, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Duke plays Arizona State in the Sun Bowl at 2 Eastern, 1 Central. Going to be interesting to see what happens in the Sun Bowl. Cannot wait on New Year's Eve to see what Duke does against Arizona State. Final score, 27-20. Duke are the ACC champions. Chaotic ACC season in a season that no one expected Duke to win their first football ACC title. They did it. Shocker. Shocker. I had them at 8th in my conference standing projections for the ACC. 8th. And they win they win the whole thing. I said Duke was a sleeper. I did. And they proved us right. They at the end of the day, everybody's awake with Duke. Virginia. Poor Virginia, man. They did their best to come back and win this game. I think the turnovers were costly. Those are the negative circle moment. But they passing the ball 216 yards. They had 344 total yards, 5.5 yards per play. They had 25 first downs, 7 for 15 on third down. So those are some positive circle moments. Chandler Morris, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 21 for 40. Whaley, 66 yards, 11 carries. Taylor had 65 yards, 15 carries. Taylor and Wood both had touchdowns. The defense did their best. They got some crucial stops. Sort of got some crucial stops, but then Duke just kept firing right back at them and kept driving down the field and eating up clock. They had some positive circle moments, but for the negatives for Virginia were the 2 turnovers. I think not being able to slow down Duke on offense when they were controlling the clock really struck them and really got them. And I think that was the huge difference in this ball game, and that's why Virginia lost. Do not take anything away from Virginia after this game, though. They are 10-3, could have an 11-win season, and that was probably above expectations on what Virginia needed to exceed expectations and to save Tony Elliott's job, because it was not going well at first. And then it ended up going great. And it ended up, winning, could be winning 11 games. They got to play Missouri in the Gator Bowl, which I am honestly going to be excited about that one because that's a very underrated football game. I think they have a shot. They already won 10 games, double-digit win games. They could have a shot at going 11-3 and Tony Elliott saving his job. What I may have exaggerated on my bedtime college football talk post on X. By the way, go and follow me at Pigskin_Frenzy. I exaggerated a little bit and said it's signed to an extension. Let's not do that because that could be a Mike Norvell situation, and we don't want that yet. And that's nothing against Mike Norvell. I'm just being honest. I'm just being real. That could be another situation like that, and we don't want that. I would say let's see what happens with Virginia next year, and if they keep producing seasons like this and being a team in the ACC to mess with, then maybe talk about extending Tony Elliott. But bring him back another year, obviously. He is back another year, 100%. It saved his job for 100%. And it should save his job. I mean, dude, 10-win season for Virginia. Virginia hadn't had a season like that since 2019, and they did it better than 2019. So Virginia deserves all the praise. Congratulations to them. They're going to the Gator Bowl against Missouri. Duke's going to the Sun Bowl, but I'm going to tell you what, this was a very highly entertaining game. Duke are the ACC champions, 27-20. They beat Virginia. Heartbreaker for them. But I'm going to tell you what, man, a chaotic way to finish the ACC football season, man. Let me go on and tell you that now. 2 more games, and let's move on. 2 more games. We'll go over the Frenzy playoff rankings, then we will go over my playoff reactions. The SEC Championship, Alabama versus Georgia. I picked Alabama to win this ball game because, well, the history was there. Bama undefeated, 4-0 against this team in the SEC Championship. The hump was there. They had to go in. And I said this last week, and they made me eat my words here. This is a game that I think that Georgia didn't really, do they really want this game? Right? I said that plenty. Well, final score of this game was Georgia 28, Alabama 7. Georgia 28, Alabama 7. Not only did Georgia get over the hump, they for sure wanted this game. They wanted to be in Atlanta. They wanted to win the SEC championship, and they proved it against Alabama. Alabama got mollywopped in this game. Point blank, they got mollywopped. We're going to discuss this game right now. So, Georgia, before we get into Alabama, Georgia, 297 total yards compared to Alabama's 209. 156 passing compared to Alabama's 212. 141 rushing yards compared to Alabama's, I would say, as far as I know, the last stat I checked, it was like 57 rushing yards. 57 rushing yards. Overall, 4.4 yards per play compared to Alabama's 3.8 yards per play. They had 16 first downs, 6 for 16 on third down, 100% on fourth down. They only allowed 1 sack. They played clean football, and they controlled the clock. 36 minutes and 52 seconds compared to Alabama's 23 minutes and 8 seconds. So, everything that I said Bama needed to win on third down. To do what they did like they did in Athens. They didn't do that. Time of possession. Try to limit Georgia's time on the field. They did not do that. Georgia is first in the conference in time of possession. It was 36 minutes and 52 seconds. They proved that again. They played clean football. They played smash mouth football. And they won in the trenches. Georgia was all over Alabama in this game. Gunnar Stockton, 3 touchdowns, 156 yards, 20 for 26. He played really good. Nate Frazier, 1 touchdown, 52 yards, 13 carries. Stockton had 39 yards rushing, 13 carries. Zachariah Branch, 1 touchdown, 53 yards, 5 receptions. Dylan Bell, 45 yards, 4 receptions, 1 touchdown, 11.2 yards per rush. The defense was all of them as well. And the defense got to Ty Simpson 3 times in this game. Very physical performance by Georgia. They got over the hump. They beat Alabama. They finally did it. I mean, the last time they did it was in the national championship in 2021. They finally beat Alabama. They finally did it. And Now they're in the college football playoff as back-to-back SEC champions. The SEC is Georgia's world, and we're just living in it. And it seems like that's the case because I thought it was going to be earlier in the conference standing projections back in early July, LSU and Texas because of the teams, how they were lined up. And then as the season went on, it was, okay, Georgia's good, but it's looking like Bama and Texas A&M. And then A&M lost late, the last game against Texas. They're in the playoffs, it doesn't matter, but they did. And then Bama won the Iron Bowl. Then here comes Georgia. And then you're thinking, oh, man, Georgia, they said they want this game, but they're playing Alabama. And Bama beat them on September 27th. And, yeah, that didn't matter too much. They made me eat my words, and they made me probably eat a very select few. I think a lot of people picked Georgia in this game, and good on you. You got it right. I should have listened. I probably should have picked Georgia. But it was just the history that I could not ignore that made me pick Alabama. Because every time I would wind up trying to pick Georgia against Alabama, Bama ends up beating them. So then on September 27th, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to pick Alabama. They're going to go into Athens and win. And guess what? They went into Athens and won. Same thing here. But it was different. This Georgia team's different this go-round. They didn't focus on the numbers of the helmet and the crimson and the crescent letter A. They focused on what was in front of them. An SEC back-to-back SEC championship, back-to-back SEC title contention and holder, and the college football playoff. That's what they were focusing on. And they got it. They were hungry, and they were hungry for back-to-back SEC titles, and they got that. And they were hungry for an appearance in the title, in the college football playoff to go try to compete for a national title, and they got that. And they're a team that's on bye in the Sugar Bowl, right? In the Sugar Bowl, they're playing the CFP quarterfinal on New Year's in the Sugar Bowl, and they got that. They got it all. They're hungry, and this is a dangerous team because they're getting better. And I'm going to tell you this, and I may discuss this a little bit as we preview a little bit of the bracket here in a minute. This team's scary. That's all I'm going to say. I'll give you my thoughts on it, but this team's scary, man. They're getting better and better. So just pay attention to Georgia. 28-7 was the final score, and Georgia looked good. That's all I'm going to say. They looked really good in this ball game. They're back-to-back SEC champions. They are going to be in the Sugar Bowl, and we will discuss the bracket here in a little bit. Alabama lost their third game. Alabama could not get anything started. I mean, point blank, they really couldn't. Their last score, I believe, was in the fourth, like early in the fourth, and it was Georgia kind of giving it to them. They committed a lot of penalties. The only negative circle moment for Georgia was the 7 penalties, 80 yards. Bama played a clean game penalty-wise, but they really couldn't do much after that. I mean, Ty Simpson had an interception. That was the only turnover they had. But 3 sacks allowed, 3 for 14 on third down. They couldn't run the ball. They were kind of one-dimensional on offense. So, really, they couldn't do a whole lot. It's been a minute since I've seen Alabama get blown out like this. It has also been a minute since I've seen Alabama kind of helpless in a way. And it was really that. They were kind of helpless. They did have a good touchdown in the early part of the fourth quarter with Jeremy Bernard. Very good athletic touchdown. Jeremy Bernard, positive circle moment there. Positive circle moment was the passing. But I'm going to tell you, man, and the positive circle moment was playing clean ball penalty-wise. But I'm going to tell you what, man, overall, it's just really a negative because they really didn't do a whole lot besides that one touchdown. Georgia was all over them. Georgia blocked a touchdown. Georgia blocked a punt, which led to a touchdown. They capitalized off the block punt to a touchdown. So special teams they lost. Defensively they lost. Offensively they lost. Up front in the trenches they lost. It was just, to me, it was like, did Georgia want this game? Well, no, Joel, scratch that. Joel today is telling Joel from last week, let's scratch that narrative. Did Alabama want this game? All wholeheartedly. Because I'm going to tell you what, man, it was completely one-sided. The game was not close. I'm going to keep saying it. It really wasn't close. There's really nothing else for me to gather my thoughts on about Alabama because nothing really happened. It was all Georgia the whole time. So, yes, they're in the playoff. They're in the playoff. The resume was too good. We're going to discuss that here in a little bit. But I'm going to tell you what, man, they have to get better in terms of offensively, yes, but in terms of getting it together, because I think Bama, and I said this, Ty Simpson was the best quarterback in America. I said that back in October. I kind of died down on that narrative. The reason why I died down on that narrative, and I've elevated, and I've always believed in Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. I said that back in September 23rd, and we're going to discuss that here in a little bit, that his Heisman hype could be real, and it is real. But I'm going to tell you this, dog. I'm going to tell you this, man. I said that Ty Simpson was the best quarterback in America, and that narrative has kind of let me down a little bit. Ever since November hit, it has been kind of ever since late October against South Carolina, that narrative has kind of just died down a little bit. It's kind of gone down and down and down. And Alabama's kind of regressed a little bit. And they've regressed at the wrong time. Now, are they in the playoff? Yeah, sure. But they got to play better. Because if they don't play better, their playoff run won't last. So final score of this game was 28-7. Georgia's the SEC champion. They are a quarterfinal participant. Alabama's in the first round of the playoff. We're going to talk about who they're playing here in a little bit. That was the SEC Championship game recap. One more before we move on. And we will go to the Frenzy rankings and playoff reactions. And we're going to talk about one team in particular, and we'll wrap it up. Indiana and Ohio State. Indiana and Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. The collision course that I said was coming, and the collision course that back in October I said was coming, and a lot of others predicted as well. I said Ohio State was going to win the game. I also said that I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana won. I also said that I have picked against Indiana too many times, and I shouldn't pick against them again, and I did do that. I did pick against them because I thought Ohio State was a different team. Well, guess what? Kirk Cincinnati and Indiana made me eat my words once again. Final score was 13-10. Indiana beats Ohio State and wins the Big Ten Championship. Their first Big Ten Championship. Their outright Big Ten Championship since 1945. Since 1945. That was probably after the Second World War. That is insane. Indiana, Big Ten champions in Kirk Cincinnati's second year at Indiana. This is his second straight college football playoff appearance. They're the number one team in college football right now, and they should be. Google Kirk Cincinnati, he wins. They proved me wrong, and they made me eat my words. It is hard to pick against Indiana. It really is. Don't know how I can pick against, in the quarterfinal at least. I don't know how I can pick against Indiana. I really don't. It made me eat my words, man. What can you say? What can you say? Let's talk about them for a second really quick before we move on to Ohio State. Fernando Mendoza. Was it a Heisman-winning performance? Not necessarily. But he could win the Heisman. He's had some incredible games this year. But 222 yards, 15 for 23, one touchdown, one pick. Black, 69 yards, 16 carries. Hemby, 52 yards, 13 carries. Becker had 126 yards and 6 receptions. Charlie Becker, their receiver. Elijah Surratt, 37 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions. And, man, their defense played lights out. Their defense had 3 sacks. 5 sacks in this game. 5 sacks. They were 16 for 13 on third down. 118 rushing yards. 222 passing yards. 340 total yards. They had 6 yards per play. They had 5 penalties for 49 yards, which was you got to tone it down a little bit. But other than that, it really wasn't a overall terrible negative performance from Indiana. Indiana had more positives than negatives in this one, so I can't really necessarily say negatives. I'm going to tell you this, though. The defensive performance was elite. Yes, did Ohio State have 264 passing yards put on them? Yes, but 58 rushing yards. And Ohio State's rushing defense is pretty good as well. They ran the ball on them and put 118 rushing yards on a top 5 rushing defense in the sport. And not only that, Ohio State could not run the ball but 58 yards on them. 58 yards total on Indiana's defense. That's elite for the Hoosiers. Elite. They played some football in Indianapolis on Saturday night. Indiana is a good football team, a scary football team, and probably could maybe win the whole thing. It would be awesome to see. Kirk Sandy got extended in his second season, brings him to a national championship. He brought him to the playoffs first year. They lost to Notre Dame, but guess what? They have a way better team this year, and Indiana is looking like they are for real. They are going to the quarterfinal Rose Bowl game, and we're going to see what happens come New Year's with Indiana. Very excited to see what happens on Saturday with the Heisman race. Curious to see what happens with Indiana. I cannot bet against this team. I don't know. Maybe against one team, maybe, but I don't know how I can bet against them. I really don't. Final score of this game was 13-10. Indiana, the number one team in college football, going to the Rose Bowl and Big Ten champions. Just surreal to think about that. Very surreal to think about that. Ohio State, I think they were a little bit one-dimensional. Yes, they passed the ball well, but that one-dimensionalness of them kind of hurt them and kind of cost them the game. And missed opportunities, and special teams, missed field goals as well. They did turn the ball over. They played clean football penalty-wise, so these are some positive circle moments. Clean penalties, 2 penalties for 20 yards, positives there. 30 minutes, they had one more minute of time of possession against Indiana. That's a positive. 264 passing yards. Sayan played well. Yes, positive. 4 for 12 on third downs, a negative, and 58 rushing yards is a negative, and 5 sacks allowed is a negative. So those are some negatives for Ohio State. We're going to see what happens in the playoff because they have I believe they have the Cotton Bowl. So they have the Cotton Bowl coming up on New Year's Eve. So it's going to be very interesting to see who they play there because Ohio State's a bye team as well. They're in the college football playoff quarterfinal as a bye and a Big Ten champion runner-up. But because Ohio State's been number one all season. They have a whole deal. They have had a good run. Let me put it that way. They had a good run with Texas. They beat Texas. They played Washington close. And they played Washington close at first, and then they ended up running away with the game. So they beat Washington. Then they beat Michigan soundly, and now they played Indiana. But they had a dominant stretch at number one. They were pretty much number one since week 2. And now they're, back to number 2. Because the one team that they played against that had a balanced offense, not we can pass the ball, can't run the ball, or vice versa. They had it together, glued together, was Indiana. And Indiana gave that to them. So now let's see what Ohio State does in the playoff. I'm curious to see what happens with Ohio State come Cotton Bowl. Final score of this game was 13-10. Indiana beats Ohio State. I know that wasn't much of a huge recap. We do have some other things to talk about and some other thoughts I have to get to. But there's really nothing else to say. But Indiana is the Big Ten champions. It's hard to fathom. I thought they were going to be I put them at 5, I believe, 5 or 6. And shame on me, right? Shame on me for down Indiana and Kirk Cignetti. Google him. He wins. He certainly does win. That was the Conference Frenzy weekend, and that was the recaps for the Conference Championship games. Let's talk about my Frenzy rankings, and let's talk about the playoff reaction. So my final Frenzy rankings were this. Number 25, Georgia Tech. I didn't move them. They didn't really play, so there's no really reason to move them. So 25, Georgia Tech, 24, Houston, 23, Michigan, 22, USC, 21, Arizona, 20, Navy, 19 was North Texas after losing that game. So they only dropped a couple of spots there. 18 is Texas. I did not have Texas in the playoff. I didn't have them in the playoff because they're a 3-loss team. Virginia was 17. Alabama was 16. I did not have them in the playoff, again, because while their resume was quite impressive, and we're going to get into that, I think the losses should matter I really do. Same with Texas. I think losses should matter. Well, they lost 3. I don't think they're a 3-loss team despite being in the conference championship. You still lost it, and you lost it badly. Yeah. You shouldn't be in my opinion. In my thoughts. That's my thoughts. Now, yes, they lost badly to the team they beat on September 27th. That gives them even more leverage. I get that. The losses should matter at the end of the day. If you're a non-conference champion, 3-loss team, to me, you shouldn't be in. I get 2 losses, I get 1 loss, and I get undefeateds, obviously undefeateds. But, dude, 3 loss or above, unless you expand it, then the 3 losses, if you expand it to 16 or whatever, then the 3 losses will make sense in my book. But 12, no. Doesn't make sense to me still. 2 losses didn't even make sense to me in the 4 team, right? The more you expand, the more I would consider the losses. But right now, dude, what are we doing? You know what I mean? What are we doing? That's just my take. I get it's the 12 best teams, but still. 15 was Utah, 14 was Vanderbilt, 13 was BYU, Tulane was 12. I put them at 12, and I put James Madison at 11. So I got a lot. I got my playoff right besides one team. Besides a flip-flop of one team, but pretty much my whole playoff was right. I put Tulane at 12 because of the 2-lossedness, and I put the 1-loss James Madison ahead of them in that, as I think they're a higher-ranked Group of 5 conference champion than Tulane is. But the playoff committee didn't see it that way. Number 10, Oklahoma. Number 9, Notre Dame. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. Number 8, Miami. Number 7, Texas A&M. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, Oregon. Here are my top 4 buys. Ohio State at 4, Texas Tech at 3, Georgia at 2, and Indiana at 1. These are the Frenzy playoff rankings, the final Frenzy playoff rankings for the 2025 season. That was who was in my field. That's the final Frenzy playoff rankings for 2025. Let's discuss the playoff brackets, and we'll conclude it with one topic, and it's Notre Dame, because this is very interesting. So, here we go. Excuse me. So, let me just pull the bracket up. Okay, so here are the college ball playoff rank, the whole playoff field. This is the playoff field. So I sort of got it. I got it whole right. I got it all right from my rankings, besides a flip-flop between one team. And let me explain something. I had Miami lower last week, yes. However, that's not right. And I will tell you why it's not right. Yes, Vanderbilt probably could have been in as well, and I think they should have wholeheartedly been in. I will tell you this about Miami. The head-to-head being them being lower than Notre Dame, to me, was a shame on me moment. And I will wholeheartedly apologize for that, because Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. I'll wholeheartedly agree with that. I've never should have put them back. I think the reason why I put them that low was I was focusing on the losses they sustained. They sustained losses to SMU, who was not even in the rankings, and even in my rankings. And they sustained losses to Louisville, who used to be in my rankings, who are not in my rankings anymore, and are not even in the rankings to begin with at all. So, yeah, I think that's what I was strung up on. But head-to-head, as they kept winning out, and Miami did win out more, yeah, they probably should have been ahead of Notre Dame. So I apologize for that, and that was a shame on Joel moment. I'll do better next time. So, but I made up for it. Miami is in the playoff in my eyes, and they're actually in the college football playoff. So the playoff field looks like this. James Madison versus Oregon. That's the first round game. So on December 20th at 6:30 Eastern on HBO Max, TNT, James Madison at Oregon. Winner plays Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl on New Year's at 11 a.m., noon Eastern on New Year's. The quarterfinal Orange Bowl against Texas Tech. Alabama at Oklahoma in Norman, Friday, December 19th. So not this Friday, but next Friday night, they play at, I believe, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ABC/ESPN. The winner of that game goes to the Rose Bowl to play Indiana. December 20th, next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on TNT HBO Max. Tulane at Ole Miss in a rematch with Pete Golding as Ole Miss's head coach, John Summerall as Tulane's coach. The winner of that plays Georgia on New Year's at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. So Ole Miss could be setting up for themselves for another rematch. Tulane could be setting themselves up with a tough game against Georgia. Cover your face if you're Georgia fans, because I know what happened to y'all last year at the Sugar Bowl. So let's just don't be worried about it this go-round, maybe. And then next Saturday, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern on ABC and ESPN, Miami at Texas A&M. Winner plays Ohio State. On New Year's Eve night, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPN in the quarterfinal College Ball Playoff Cotton Bowl Classic against Ohio State. So that's the playoffs. I've already explained my notion about Alabama. I didn't think they should be in, but by the resume, I understand. The Group of Five narrative is funny to me as well. And shout out to Tim Brando posted this, the legendary Tim Brando. I had him on my show. Shout out to him. He is awesome. Great. He posted this yesterday even. And shout out to him from Fox Sports. He said, and this was a emergency on Brando, right? So I love watching his videos. I've grew up watching him. He's an icon to me. So he said that this is not the Group of Five. It shouldn't be the group. It's low-hanging fruit to say that. And it is about the Group of Five. Because to me, they've earned their way. They have earned their way, and I get it. They have not beaten the Power 4 team and all this stuff. But here's the deal, man. Tulane scheduled some Power 4 teams on their schedule this year. They lost, but they scheduled some teams there. James Madison did not. Well, James Madison did. It was against Louisville, but they lost to Louisville. But it was a very close loss. They played Louisville very tough in that game. So to me, and in Louisville's a 4-loss team, I get it. But to me, the Group of Five is equally as deserving for going into the playoff. That's the rules. They were set up. The expansion was set up for the Group of Five so they can be included. And so they won't have to feel left out. Because the longest time, everybody was complaining about the Group of Five. Now everybody's complaining if the Group of Five's in. So it's like, what do you want? You know what I mean? And it's weird. It's real weird. Back in the day, yay, Cincinnati got in, and then they got beat down by Bama. And the thing is, everyone's going to be like, oh, they got beat down. You kind of had a feeling that was going to happen. With this, same thing with James Madison, with Tulane. I don't know if they're going to win or not, but here's the deal, man. They're in, they're included, and now everyone's complaining of something they wanted in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. It boggles my mind. And by the way, the ACC being in chaos kind of helped two G5 teams get in. It was only going to be one team. But the ACC being in chaos would be in shambles. If the ACC wouldn't have been such chaos in Miami as a 1-loss or 2-loss team would have been in, this would have hurt James Madison or Tulane, and then the potential of Notre Dame getting in would have happened. So there we go. Shout out to Tim Brando. I love his thoughts. He's a legend. He does great. I maybe clip this into a reel so he can see it and tag him in it. So shout out to him. He's awesome. The one team, and that's my reactions. That's my whole thing for the playoff. We will preview and predict these games, these first round games next Thursday with our very special guest picker. We will announce that coming up this, I would believe this Friday. We'll announce it on who the guest picker will be live on X, or right here on X and Instagram for @Pigskin_Frenzy on X and Instagram. Follow the pages there. One team, and we're going to wrap it up. Notre Dame's out of the playoff. I had them in my playoff. I understand. A lot of people are going to be like, why? They're not in the conference, all this stuff. I get it. They had 2 losses against A&M and Miami. Yes, head-to-head matters when it comes to Miami, and Miami probably should have been ahead of Notre Dame wholeheartedly. I think what got me impressed with Notre Dame was how well they bounced back once again, and they blew a lot of teams out. I mean, they had 40-plus point games the past few weeks, it seemed like, in the back half of the season as well. And Notre Dame was running. They were running up the score and dominating. So I get it. I get how they feel on that. But head-to-head, yes, should matter. In Miami, if you had to choose, Miami should get in over Notre Dame because they beat them. Now, with that, Notre Dame then proceeds to leave a statement out. And it's kind of funny because we're going to, read the statement, as I try to get my notes ready. Okay. As we set the statement out, it was from Sunday after the selection show. And a couple hours after the selection show, they didn't get in. As a team, we've decided to withdraw our name from the consideration for a bowl game following the 2025 season. We appreciate all the support from our families and from our families and fans, and we're hoping to bring the 12th national title to South Bend in 2026, the 2025 Notre Dame football team. So, this just created a whole big in college football in terms of bowl games and in terms of just postseason play in general. The opportunity to compete is starting to die. Kansas State's opted out. I understand that. Colin Klein's their new head coach. They're bringing a whole new coaching staff in, a coaching crew in. Chris Kleiman's retiring. Shout out to Chris Kleiman. Shout out to Colin Klein. I cannot wait to see Kansas State football next year. Iowa State's out. They got Jimmy Rogers coming in there. Matt Campbell going to Penn State. Finally, we're going to talk about that on Thursday's edition of Pigskin Frenzy because why not? I would love to talk about that on Thursday's edition with Trent Ritchie. We're going to talk about that here later on. But Iowa State's opting out. And then Baylor opted out as well. Now, Notre Dame opted out. So, the game, we got Mississippi State in a bowl game. We have Rice in a bowl game, the 5 and 7 teams, because they were the two best, right? The two best 5 and 7 teams, APR-wise, academically, to go to these bowl games. So, then you look at the Notre Dame thing, you're thinking, man, why would they do that? And I'm wondering the same thing. The original plan for the Pop-Tarts Bowl was Notre Dame and BYU, or according to Brett McMurphy from On3 Sports. That was the original plan. And then when they declined it, Georgia Tech got the offer, and Georgia Tech accepted. So it was Georgia Tech and BYU. Cannot wait for that game. I love that. Here's the problem with me. It is now creating a playoff or bust mentality, which can effectively kill the bowl games. And I think that's where we can start trending. Because now I'm afraid if something like this happens next season, right, then, expect more of it, right? The 4-team playoff never had this, and I'm glad that they didn't because they had New Year's 6 bowl games, right? But now all the New Year's 6 bowls are playoff games. So now it's just regular bowl games. So it's essentially for a lot of these playoff contending teams, playoff or bust. It creates that mentality. And one, it takes the fun away from your players and takes mentally the will and the mentality to go out there and try to compete, the opportunity to compete and play football, the game that you love. So you're essentially taking that away from yourself as well. And then as fans who would want to see you in a bowl game, you're taking that away from them as well. So here's my thought process. Number one, you probably should have beaten Miami. And I hate saying it that way, but it's the truth. Number two, you're instilling a ripple effect that could happen all over again, and even worse going down the road. This is what I'm afraid of, because I think this could be the start of something bigger, and I don't like that. According to their Notre Dame athletic director, Pete Bevacqua, Bevacqua. Pete Bevacqua said, Notre Dame's athletic director said that this is permanent damage to y'all's relationship to the ACC has been done. To me, how? Because you're independent in football, but you're associated with the ACC in other sports. Maybe you have a scheduling association with the ACC as an independent, but you're an independent in football. So I don't know how that works, but okay. One thing that he said that was funny, though, was I have nothing against Pop-Tarts at all. Give me a Notre Dame merchandise line that says nothing against Pop-Tarts. That is hilarious. But I don't understand how you can justify it a little bit. Opting out of a bowl game because you didn't get into the playoff. I get the bowl games. I get the playoff is more important. It's the most important thing. But a bowl game is something that teams work hard for to get to be bowl eligible. So then when you say during the season, okay, I'm bowl eligible, this means something. Then, I guess it really doesn't mean anything because you opted out. So it's going to create a ripple effect, and I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that for Notre Dame. That's just my thoughts. I think I really hope they didn't start a chain reaction, but it's looking like they probably did. Anywho, we'll figure it out, and we will see what happens. But Notre Dame next year, if they finish top 12, there's a clause. They're guaranteed a playoff spot. So if they finish within the top 12, if they're an undefeated or a one-loss team, essentially they're going to have to lose 3 games next year, which they could. Their schedule's pretty tough. They could, but they're going to have to lose that many games because if they win if they have 1 or 2 losses and they're in the top 12, they're automatically in because there's a clause now that states a guaranteed spot for them in 2026, which is crazy. I just discovered that. So we're going to see what happens with Notre Dame, but tough break for them. I love their independence. I understand that, but maybe a conference, maybe the conference thing came back to bite them. I don't know, but we will see what happens with Notre Dame. I just think it's very interesting they opt out of the ball game. I would have done that because you're also instilling a willingness to an unwillingness to compete and the opportunity taken away from fans. And not only that, it's teaching, hey, we're not really finishing the season on a high note. We're just kind of just quitting it, So that's just my thoughts on it. Guys, that's all we got for today on Pigskin Frenzy. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below, Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow along the pages there. You're also going to get the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we are so thankful for you guys each and every Tuesday and Thursday for tuning in and listening to Pigskin Frenzy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. 6,200 listeners and counting, about to be at 6,300 and counting. We're so thankful for you guys. We're so thankful for all of you, and we're so thankful for you tuning in each and listening each and every week. We couldn't do this without our Lord and Savior Jesus. We love him, and we give him all the praise and glory, because without him, we would not be doing this, and we would not be in college football media. So we praise him and give him all the glory. Guys, coming up on Thursday, we have our correspondent back with us, Trent Ritchie. He joins the show on Thursday. We're going to talk about Matt Campbell going to Penn State. We're going to give his thoughts on the college football playoff. We're going to give his thoughts as well, and we're going to discuss who wins the Heisman Trophy coming up on Saturday. All that on Thursday's edition of Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, and we may predict a little bit of Army-Navy as well coming up on Thursday. So, guys, until Thursday, I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. We will see you Thursday. For everybody out there, we're praying for you all. Please and always stay the course.